Okay, let's get into this. Picture this scene. A ritual fire, right? But it's not in some, cozy meditation room. It's blazing in a Himalayan cremation ground. Smoke everywhere, ancient stones. It's intense.
Yeah, it's a really stark image,
Yeah.
completely different from, say, vanilla candles and soft cushions.
Exactly, it throws you right into it.
And that contrast, I think, it
Yeah.
immediately tells you what we're dealing with here. This isn't about comfort spirituality.
No, it's about something much more direct, confronting the big stuff.
Which is probably why your own research, your own path,
Mhm.
has led you to explore this kind of material, something beyond the mainstream.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking at Tantra, Mantra, Yantra, the ancient wisdom. Our guide is this source material from a Himalayan shaman, someone with like 22 years practicing in these cremation grounds. It's all based on his upcoming book, Veils of Fire.
A journey into tantric rituals at the edge of life and death. Even the title tells you something.
It really does.
And it makes you think, why this? Why now? There seems to be this pull towards something more authentic. Maybe something that doesn't shy away from the tough questions.
I think so too. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Pull out the core insights from Veils of Fire. We want to get a clearer picture of what authentic Tantra, Mantra, and Yantra actually are, their purpose, the commitment needed.
And also cut through some of the noise, right? The misunderstandings, the modern dilutions of it all.
Definitely. Because the source suggests it's the space where, well, normal boundaries get deliberately fuzzy.
Yeah, a place where transformation isn't gentle. It's described more like alchemy. Powerful stuff.
Okay, so let's dive right into that first part. The lost science of Tantra. Not for the faint-hearted. It immediately tackles the big misconception, Tantra. It's not just about sex, is it?
Not even close, according to this material. That's a massive oversimplification that's taken hold in the West.
So what is it then at its core?
The source frames it as complete technology, a system for radical transformation, embracing everything.
And it even breaks down different approaches within Tantra, this right-hand versus left-hand path idea.
Yes, that distinction is important. The right-hand path often involves sort of transcending by avoiding certain things.
Yeah.
Purity focus.
Okay.
But the left-hand path, which is the focus here, it directly engages with the stuff we usually run from. Death, fear, desire.
Seeing them as doorways, not obstacles.
Exactly. As fuel for liberation. It's a very different orientation.
Wow. And the origins, the book traces this back thousands of years. Shamanic roots, philosophy, mystical insights. This is ancient stuff.
Deeply ancient, not some new age trend. It's got this incredible lineage evolving over millennia. That authenticity is key.
Then it gets into Agora, described as the most intense form practiced in cremation grounds.
Yeah, agora non-terrifying. It's
Yeah.
about radically smashing our usual ideas of pure and impure, sacred and profane.
And the cremation ground is the perfect place for that.
It seems so. It becomes the ultimate laboratory for accepting reality as it is, including death, decay, everything, transcending those dualities.
Right. So the shamshan, the cremation ground, let's unpack why it's so central. It's not just for shock value.
No, the source gives specific reasons. First, the raw confrontation with mortality. It just shatters the ego's illusions of permanence.
Okay, makes sense.
Then there are the elemental forces, very powerful there. The boundaries between worlds are said to be thinner.
Thinner, like easier to perceive other things.
That's the idea. Easier access to subtle energies, deeper states, and the whole cycle playing out death, transformation, rebirth. It's a constant teaching.
So it's a demanding practice. It requires facing things head on, burning away limitations, not just seeking comfort.
Exactly. The goal isn't just feeling good, it's freedom. True liberation from ignorance, from conditioning. And that often requires fire, metaphorically speaking.
Which explains the critique of commercial Tantra in the book. It suggests it often misses the point. Carrie picks the nice bits.
Pretty much. It points out that taking techniques out of their philosophical and ethical context, focusing on experiences over real inner change,
Right.
well, it just doesn't work the same way.
So authentic practice, what does it demand? Sounds serious.
It is. The source highlights 4 key things.
Yeah.
Total surrender, letting go of who you think you are,
Okay.
consistent discipline, daily practices, real effort, and ethical foundation, the moral compass, is non-negotiable.
Right.
And proper initiation, getting that energetic transmission, the container for the practice.
And the payoff isn't necessarily flashy powers or constant bliss.
No, the real reward, the source emphasizes, is liberation. Freedom from ignorance, freedom from attachment. That's the ultimate goal. Anything else is secondary.
Okay, let's shift gears. Mantra. The vibrational sword of consciousness. Love that phrase.
Thank you.
Again, the book is clear. These aren't just positive affirmations you repeat.
No, they're presented as precise sound technologies, almost like a science researched for millennia on how specific sounds impact consciousness, even reality itself.
How do they supposedly work? It mentions a few mechanisms.
Yes, several. Neurological restructuring, literally reshaping brain pathways through repetition.
Wow.
Creating resonance fields interacting with our energy body, our subtle anatomy. Acting as keys, unlocking specific states of awareness.
Keys. I like that.
And even deity invocation, connecting with specific cosmic intelligences or energies.
It gets specific with bija mantras, these single-seed syllables like krim, shrime. Sounds potent.
Extremely potent. They're considered concentrated powerhouses of energy. But the source stresses correct pronunciation, timing, alignment. It's all crucial.
And it warns about incorrect pronunciation causing imbalance. That's not something you hear often in, like, yoga class mantra chanting.
Right. It's a critical point here. Because they work on subtle energy, whether you believe it or not. The wrong vibration could theoretically be disruptive. Some mantras even require specific protections.
Protections?
Yeah, shields or counter mantras, especially for the very intense ones used in certain practices.
Interesting. And the levels of practice.
Yeah.
Audible, whispered, mental, a progression inwards.
Exactly. Vaikari, audible, Upamshu, whispered, and Manasika, mental. It shows a deepening focus, moving from the gross to the subtle.
The book even gives examples from the cremation grounds, using mantras to create protective fields, influencing energies around them. That's practical magic almost.
It highlights the tangible power attributed to mantra in these highly charged environments. Suggests it's not just psychological.
So how would you know if a mantra is genuinely working? What are the signs?
The source lists a few potential indicators. Things like spontaneous movements or postures, mudras, changes in breathing or metabolism, inner experiences like tastes or sounds, shifts in perception, seeing lights, colors. It varies.
And the pitfalls. Common mistakes people make today.
Oh, yeah. Treating mantras like interchangeable magic words. Missing the initiation, the diksha, which is seen as vital. Focusing on just racking up numbers instead of quality and presence.
Right. Quantity over quality.
And neglecting the mental state, the intention behind it. Context is everything.
But it does offer ways to bring mantra into daily life, right? Even if you're not doing Shamshan Satana.
Yes, absolutely. Practical things. Japa repetition during mundane activities. Using mantras as anchors for emotions. Building the practice gradually. It can be integrated.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the third pillar, Yantra, the geometry of the gods. Again, the starting point is, these are not just pretty pictures for your wall.
Definitely not. The core idea is they are energetic blueprints. Interfaces between our consciousness and these cosmic forces. Precise matrices.
A living science of sacred geometry. I like that framing. Physical forms of mantra, maps of consciousness, technological interfaces even.
It really emphasizes their active, multidimensional nature. It talks about the importance of exact measurements, the right materials, copper, silver, gold traditionally.
Why those materials?
They have specific energetic conductivities and associations. The mathematical ratios in yantras are said to mirror cosmic principles. Even the colors used are significant.
And activating them isn't just drawing them, there's a whole ritual process.
Right. Purification, precise drawing or engraving, infusing them with specific mantras, and then this crucial step, prana pratishtha.
What's that?
It means installing life force. A ceremony to actually energize the yantra, to make it a living presence. Very deliberate.
The book discusses specific yantras. The Sri Yantra is mentioned as, like, the source of all others, representing Shiva and Shakti.
Yes, the union of the divine, masculine and feminine, the source of all creation. Those interlocking triangles represent the entire structure of the cosmos, different levels of reality. Meditation on it is complex.
And then the Kali Yantra sounds intense, linked to destruction and creation, requires caution.
Very much so. Kali energy is fiercely transformative. The yantra channels that. The source advises real reverence, awareness of its power, and again, often specific protections or protocols when working with it.
And it touches on lesser-known Himalayan yantras, too, for specific things like optical removal protection.
Yeah, there's a vast repository of specialized yantras within these traditions, many kept within specific lineages, revealed only through initiation. Bhairava yantras, Nepalese protection designs. It's a huge field.
So how do you work with them? It talks about creating sacred space, placement, like setting up an energetic circuit board.
That's a good analogy. Placement matters, influences energy flow. You can combine yantras to create specific energetic fields, and they need maintaining their energy through ritual.
But, like mantra, improper use can cause problems. Physical symptoms, disturbances.
Exactly. These are potent tools. Working with them incorrectly or casually can lead to imbalances. The source mentions warning signs and the need for guidance, even how to safely deactivate one if needed.
It briefly mentions modern uses, like harmonizing spaces, even digital yantras, but with caveats.
Yeah, while digital versions exist, the book suggests the tangible connection, the traditional materials, the ritual activation that carries a unique, energetic weight that might be limited in purely digital forms. Still evolving, perhaps.
This next part feels critical. Initiation and transmission, getting beyond just reading about it. Diksha.
Absolutely fundamental, according to this source. The core idea: you need that energetic transmission to truly awaken spiritual capacities. Knowledge alone isn't enough.
It's like having the map but needing the key for the engine.
That's a great way to put it. Initiation is presented as the energetic key that unlocks the deeper potential described in the teachings.
And trying to access this stuff without that container, it can lead to problems. Instability, ego getting involved.
Yes, the source warns about that. Potential for imbalance, psychological disruption. The ego is very clever at co-opting spiritual knowledge for its own gain if there isn't that grounding transmission and guidance.
Which leads to the Guru-Shishya Parampara, the teacher-student lineage. How that maintains integrity. Finding someone authentic seems vital.
It is. The lineage is a conduit for both the knowledge and that essential energy. The book talks about discernment, testing, the responsibilities on both sides. It's a sacred bond, not a casual relationship. Requires trust, but also critical thinking.
What actually happens during Shaktipath, this transmission? Is it always dramatic, lights flashing kind of thing?
Usually not, according to the source. It's often very subtle. It works on the deep energetic system, maybe some temporary sensations, but the real effects unfold over time, gradually shifting consciousness and capacity. It's very individual.
I found this contents versus container idea really interesting. Why some things are kept for oral transmission, not just put in books.
Right. It's not about being needlessly secretive. It's about protecting the practices, yes, but also protecting the student, ensuring readiness.
How so?
Some knowledge requires a certain level of energetic development or ethical maturity to handle responsibly. The veils in teaching are sometimes there to ensure the student receives things when they can actually integrate them safely. It respects the power involved.
So finding authentic transmission today, tricky. The book gives red flags for dodgy teachers.
It does. Things like promising instant enlightenment, focusing only on pleasure without the hard work, lacking a clear lineage or ethical grounding, big red flags.
And it stresses the student's role too. Readiness isn't just intellectual.
Exactly. Lineages often test readiness in ways that go beyond book smarts. Patience, humility, sincerity. And there's that principle. When the student is truly ready, the teacher appears.
So what can someone do to prepare if they feel drawn to this?
The suggestions are: engage in foundational practices first. Get really clear on your intention. Why do you want this?
Yes.
Approach potential teachers with respect, humility, and manage expectations. It's a long path.
Okay, back to the deep end. Shamshan Sadhana, facing death to find truth. The cremation ground practices, called the ultimate classroom.
Yeah, it's presented as the most intense accelerator for transformation because you cannot avoid impermanence there. It strips away illusions like nothing else.
Yeah, even names specific places. Pashupatinath in Nepal, Manikarnika Ghat in Varanasi, Tarapith, suggesting the location itself has power.
These are major Shakti Pithas, or power centers, charged by centuries of intense practice, associated with specific deities' historical events. The geography itself is part of the technology.
And preparing for this kind of work, it sounds incredibly rigorous. Physical purification, diet, mental prep, protections?
Absolutely meticulous preparation is required on every level: body, energy, mind. You need to be grounded, protected, and clear to work safely and effectively in such an environment.
The night practice described, establishing the sacred space, the different phases, sounds like a journey into the shadows, literally and figuratively.
It is a deep dive into liminal consciousness, confronting personal and collective shadows, fears, limitations. The source outlines the structure, but acknowledges the profound challenges involved.
And then direct experience, signs, communications. How do you tell what's real versus just your mind playing tricks in such a place?
That's a key point. The source suggests that dedicated practice refines subtle perception. You learn the language of the place, symbolic events, physical signs, intuitive hits, but discernment is crucial, constantly checking against ego and imagination.
And dealing with non-physical entities, that sounds potentially hairy.
It can be. The cremation ground attracts all sorts of energies and beings. The book stresses protocols, respectful communication if necessary, strong protection methods, clear boundaries, ethical interaction, not something to be approached lightly or fearfully.
Ultimately, the goal is transformation through that intense confrontation, a cremation of the old self.
Yes, facing death leads to fearlessness. Burning away limiting beliefs and identities in that fire of direct experience, then integrating those profound insights back into daily life. That's the aim.
Okay, phew. Let's shift to clarifying things. Myths, misuse, and modern confusion. The book dives right into the distortions.
Yeah, it acknowledges up front how badly Tantra especially has been misrepresented. It's important to clear the air.
The Tantra sex confusion is probably number one. The book explains where that likely came from.
Right, historical misinterpretations, focusing on a very small, advanced, and specific practice called maithuna, ritual union.
And commercialization just ran with the sex part.
Pretty much inverted it, really. Took it completely out of its context of non-dual realization and focused purely on enhancing sensation, which misses the original point entirely.
Then there's Instagram versus initiation. This whole aesthetic Tantra thing, so relevant.
Totally. Social media thrives on the visual, the performative. But the book draws a sharp line between looking spiritual or tantric and doing the actual deep, often unglamorous inner work, the sadhana. Photogenic poses don't equal transformation.
It also clarifies the Panchamakara, the infamous 5 M's, wine, meat, fish, grain, sex, explains their original symbolic meaning.
Yes, and their function within specific ritual contexts as tools to transcend duality, to break taboos under controlled conditions. Literal interpretation or use outside that framework is considered misuse, even dangerous. Often symbolic substitutes were used.
So amidst all this confusion, how do you find something authentic? More red flags for modern teachings.
Key things to watch for: emphasis on pleasure without discipline, promises of quick fixes, lack of clear ethics, no verifiable lineage connection. If it sounds too good and easy, it probably is.
And this trap of spiritual materialism, using practice to puff up the ego.
Yeah, collecting spiritual experiences like trophies, making practice just another identity badge, using non-dual concepts to justify egoic behavior. Subtle but common. The ego loves to co-opt spirituality.
Finally, it talks about engaging respectfully, appropriation versus adoption.
Important distinction: giving credit, understanding the context, honoring the source tradition, avoiding fetishization or turning sacred symbols into mere commodities. Ethical engagement is key.
Which brings us to the final section. Why the time is now. Tantra for the Kali Yuga. Connecting ancient wisdom to today's crises.
The argument is that these powerful, often intense tantric traditions were, in a sense, preserved for times like these times of great upheaval and transition, known as the Kali Yuga.
The age of conflict and confusion.
Right. The source suggests the current chaos, spiritual confusion, environmental breakdown, identity crises makes these direct transformative paths particularly relevant.
It even says tantric texts sort of predicted conditions like ours, and that crisis itself can be an opportunity.
Yes, the idea that breakdown allows for breakthrough. The very intensity of the Kali Yuga can accelerate spiritual growth for those willing to engage consciously.
And how does Tantra specifically address modern problems like anxiety, disconnection, that feeling of emptiness?
By its holistic nature. By working directly with energy, emotion, the body, the shadow. By offering paths back to a sense of wholeness and connection, confronting the roots of suffering rather than just managing symptoms.
The idea of Kali's fierce compassion comes up again here. Sometimes transformation needs that intensity.
That's the essence of it. Sometimes gentle methods aren't enough to cut through deep conditioning. Fierce compassion acts decisively for the sake of ultimate liberation. It's tough love, cosmically speaking.
And the book itself, Veils of Fire, is presented as an offering for this time.
Yes, as a way to preserve authentic wisdom, offer reliable guidance, even provide access to some practices that were previously very restricted, but doing so responsibly.
Balancing accessibility with protection.
Exactly, and emphasizing the responsibility of the person receiving these teachings, approaching them with respect, practicing progressively, finding community, becoming a worthy vessel.
It ends on a hopeful note, doesn't it? A greater awakening possible now? Individual work contributing to a collective shift.
Mm-hmm. It points to the potential of this moment, despite the challenges. An acceleration of evolution is possible, and it starts with individual transformation rippling outwards.
Okay, so wrapping this up, key takeaway. Authentic Tantra, Mantra, Yantra. These are profound, demanding paths, way beyond the pop culture versions.
Absolutely. They require serious commitment, a strong ethical base, and very often that crucial element of initiation into a living tradition, not a casual hobby.
And hopefully this deep dive has, maybe challenged some assumptions you had, offered a different lens on what real spiritual practice can involve.
Yeah, maybe giving you a sense of the depth, the intensity, the sheer courage involved in facing reality so directly.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. The book talks about that sacred fire it illuminates, but it also consumes. Ask yourself, what illusions, what parts of your own conditioning might you be ready to let that fire burn away, to see what truth remains?
The powerful question, what are you willing to release to find genuine freedom? What does that kind of journey demand?
And if this exploration of Veils of Fire resonates, if you feel that pull, the book is available for pre-order. It comes with exclusive bonus teachings, things usually shared only within the lineage, a chance to go deeper if you feel called.